Shanti. Om Shanti. And good evening and welcome to Raj Yoga Essentials. Congratulations if you managed to get here. I know we seem to change it every week, but hopefully it will, like ourselves, stabilize. So we're going to share for a while, have reflection at the very end. Conference call number and code will be typed into the chat box if there's any questions or anything you want to share. So we'll indicate that at the end of the first portion of the class. But as always, we would like to begin with just a reflection. And so I'm going to invite you, which I hope you already are, to be seated comfortably. And again, experimenting with what is meant to be a very practical practice. So, if you can, eyes open, body sitting in a comfortable but engaged way. And the eyes can be looking slightly down at a distant focus point. So the eyes are relaxed but open. And then, in just one thought, starting to clarify for the self internally, why am I sitting here? What is my objective? What do I hope to attain through this practice? Just asking the self that question, clarifying the purpose of sitting here. And if I become quite quiet inside, a deeper answer might emerge, one that can even surprise the self. I'm trying to listen to not the voice of day-to-day life, but I'm trying to hear almost an ancient voice, the voice of something that had perhaps become buried, not even in this birth, deeper than that, the voice of spirituality, the voice of spirit, the voice of my own heart and my own conscience. Those voices are always there, but so drowned out by the chattering of the mind as it gets occupied in day-to-day life. When I sit quietly, step outside the rhythm of day-to-day life, that ordinary chatter of the mind starting to shift to a different conversation. It's not that the mind becomes quiet or silent. There are still thoughts, but of a different quality, giving space for a sacred voice to emerge that can answer that question, why am I sitting here? Om Shanti. When we sometimes have the course in the physical form where physically we are together, um, students either find for themselves or it's even suggested that they have a notebook with them, not to record what's being spoken by the facilitator, but in case they have some thoughts or insights that come up for themselves that they want to record. So that is something you might want to consider, especially out of that reflection. Why am I sitting here? It's a very personal conversation. What we will talk about today is why would someone study Raj Yoga? Um, this is such a rudimentary thing about the study. To be clear about what its purpose is. It's the case with any study. If I go to school, I pick a certain course with the intention at the end I will achieve a certain state. So I might go and study law to become a lawyer, or I might go and study medicine to become a doctor, or I might go and study sewing to become a seamstress. So that's pretty clear when one enters into the study. Um, this practice of Raj Yoga is offered by the Brahma Kumaris. The way that we present ourselves is as a university or place of study. And the course material is called Raj Yoga. So, again, coming into a study with a purpose, what will I achieve through this study? I think that's pretty important to know. And is what's being offered through the study relevant to what I am looking for? Raj Yoga, which translates as royal union, so engaging in some type of union that will restore the royalty of the self. This idea of restoring personal dignity, but on a very deep level, this understanding that dignity is a spiritual matter, not a physical matter. So to stay restoring personal dignity, we feel that is synonymous with saying restoring spirituality. We also feel that the word spirituality is synonymous with purity. So to say restoring personal dignity, the royalty, the mastery within the self, we feel it's synonymous to saying restoring the purity of the self. Learning how to live spiritually is the point of Raj Yoga. And again, why would I want to do that? Yes, there will be personal dignity, and we feel personal dignity or spirituality or purity, again, these are interchangeable, is so connected to the experience of happiness in one's life. So to live a happy life, there has to be personal dignity, there has to be spirituality, there has to be purity. This is the understanding with which Raj Yoga is offered. And if you are trying to figure out, is that really the case or just because we say so? You can always try the opposite thought in your mind and see how it feels. Okay, so I can have happiness in my life without personal dignity. I can have my happiness in my life just on a strictly physical or quantity based approach. I can have happiness in my life with impurity. So you can try the opposite statement and see how it feels, and that might help to clarify things for the self. So such a deep focus, that's always just as when a student is in a worldly school, they constantly are aware of what they will attain through the study. We also like to be very aware of what's going to happen through this study. I will become, really that master of the self. I will be able to live my life spiritually, and there will be purity in my life. I will become pure. And if those are things that really interest the soul, then this is the place for them. Raj Yoga is really relevant. So, being very clear about the function, learning how to live my life spiritually. So often, souls might say, I don't have time for Raj Yoga or meditation, or I don't have time for spirituality, as if spirituality, again, whenever you hear spirituality, it is synonymous with mastery and purity. So you can stick either of those three words into any of these sentences. But it's like saying, I do not have time for self mastery. I do not have time for purity or quality of life. And the attitude towards that is that these are separate things. They're not compatible. I'm either, people say back to reality. I'm either living my life or I'm experiencing spirituality. That these are two separate things that can never be integrated, living spiritually. And yet, it's a wonder that they ever got separated when we really think about it. What does spirituality represent? What does purity mean? What does self-mastery mean? This is about integrity. This is about core values, qualities, ethics, morality. This is all that is in that realm of spirituality and purity and royalty. How did those ever get separated from day-to-day life? Really simple example. Whenever you're faced with a situation, a decision of some sort, what does that decision making process look like? Um, I just got a, oh, okay, that's for question and answer. Okay. Um, what does that decision making look like? Is it about asking a bunch of different people what I should do? Is it based on cost analysis? What's the least expensive route to take? Is it based on consulting a bunch of experts in the field? Is it based on customs and systems of culture? Um, what is it based on? Or is it just based on my core values? And what do you think is ideal? What would leave me happy? My conscience clean, my heart clean. What would make the soul happy? So this idea of learning to live spiritually and that they're not separate. And how does one live spiritually? What does that mean? Where does that emergence of those values come from? And this is something that we have been so focusing on all week. So you'll get to experience it too, because it's been our focus all this week in our study is the development of virtues or values, and where does that come from? Virtues such that I can use them in day-to-day life. And just stop for a moment now and have you, again, if you've got pen and paper, you can certainly use it. This might be useful for our reflection later, but to ask yourself to write down might be one, I'd say up to three, just for the sake of simplicity for our minds, anywhere from 1 to 3 core values or virtues or qualities whatever word makes sense to you, that are very important to you. So, whether they're core values or a virtue or virtues or a quality, um, 1 to 3 that are super important to you. You might already be aware of those, already implementing those, or something to reflect on. Um, One thing we know is very important to us is that when we see someone else demonstrating that quality, it deeply touches our heart. It really moves us. It might be integrity, it might be peace, it might be love, whatever, compassion. Just either 1 up to 3. Take a moment to jot that down for yourself. Again, take care with this. Again, that inner ancient voice inside that is beyond conditioning or worldly morality or cultures, beyond all of that. A very, very personal place for you, and let the answer emerge from there. All right. You'll have more time to reflect after this, absolutely. So, where are those qualities going to emerge from such they start to happen naturally in my day to day life, not in a contrived or manipulated way or forced way, but in a natural way, really from the heart? And so this brings us to the very essence of Raj Yoga, how we're going to achieve that objective. Where will I aim? What will I focus on in order to have that kind of spirituality or dignity, that constant expression of those virtues in my life? I need to focus on. And it's always a surprise when we say, well, don't focus on those virtues directly. We're going to focus on the seed of virtue, the very seed of spirituality, the seed of personal dignity. And it comes down to that question, who am I? It comes down to one sense of self. And the term that we use in Raj Yoga is soul. So the idea of starting to experience, in order to bring spirituality into my life, I need to show up in my life in a different or deeper way, a more timeless way. And we call that way of showing up, that sense of self, soul. Starting to experience, I am a soul. We're used to experience the self in very different ways, in very temporary and physical ways. So we've gotten very, very used to, and that's an understatement when I say very, very used to experiencing ourselves to be the body, which is both physical and temporary, used to experiencing ourselves relative to other people, experiencing ourselves in the form of a position or status, an image. Sometimes we even use the term ego. Really gotten used to experiencing it's so deeply ingrained at this point, such a deep habit, but we weren't always this way, and this is why we use the term purity. Purity simply means before things were acquired, what was there? Before anything was mixed in, the completely original natural state. So before these other ways of identifying ourselves came along, how did we experience ourselves? And this very pure way of experiencing myself that is not connected to anything physical or temporary. If all of that is stripped away, thinking of myself as the body, thinking of myself relative to others as a mother or a father or a brother, all of that taken away, all of the responsibilities and roles taken away. And I'm not saying in a frightening way, it's actually in a very much a relief to really get down to an authentic sense of self, because all of these come and go, and you can see how we cling to them and almost try to control them in a violent way, because our sense of self is so desperately anchored in them. If they're all taken away, what's that pure, what's left, that pure sense of self? And the term human being really says it all. I am a being, a soul. I am this wonderful, invaluable thing called life, the living being. I don't think there's anything more valuable than life. So, to really go down to a very essential experience of the self, I am a soul, I am life, I am the living being, I am the thinker. And this is a very spiritual or timeless or eternal or pure awareness of the self. And this is where we want to aim to start to emerge those core values or qualities in such a natural and authentic way. So let's take a moment and see if we can dive down into that very pure, what we call pure consciousness, a very pure sense of self. So again, sitting comfortably with that sense of purpose. I am here for a reason. I want to have this deeper, timeless experience of myself. And it actually starts in such a simple way. Do I believe that I am a soul? That's the starting point. There's really no point making the journey if I don't believe the destination exists. Do I believe I am a soul, this living being, with all these layers of clothes on top, all these other different temporary identities have been layered on top. And this experience of myself as a soul has become deeply merged. So this introversion, reflection, meditation is about, without any violence, starting to release all the layers. We sometimes use the term letting go, but not to nothing. I am releasing all of those layers, those temporary identities, in order to get to the essence hidden below. The feeling is of an actor stepping off stage, taking off the costume, the roles, taking off the makeup, the image, letting go of the props, the possessions, and reframing the relationships with the fellow actors. In a sense, becoming almost naked. All of the elements of the drama on stage are released. No makeup, no layers. Almost as if I've been waiting to let go. As if all of these identities had become a burden, heavy, starting to release all that is temporary, and feeling the energy of the self start to withdraw, concentrate inwards as I let go. Concentrating at a point behind the forehead, as if my sense of self is sitting there. I am seated behind the forehead, looking out through the eyes of this costume, listening through the ears. I am a quiet, still being, an observer. I am the thinker. I am a soul. An eternal, timeless, sacred sense of self. Very quiet. Almost this feeling of sitting in the eye of a storm. The body is around me. All of the different factors connected to the body swirl around me. And I just observe. I am this point of awareness inside, quiet, calm. And it is out of that calm, that lightness, that letting go, that the virtues emerge. And one of the first to emerge is peace. Out of the silent, quiet, light sense of self, this feeling of peace naturally emerges. A sense of contentment, easiness, non-violence. As my consciousness aligns, the virtues come back online in such a natural, easy way. And I experience each one as they emerge. Om Shanti. So that's really the essence of tonight's sharing, is it's out of that silence, just experiencing myself to be a soul takes me into a quiet place. That's where I need to aim. And when I'm truly in that experience, those core values, those virtues, those qualities really naturally emerge. And if I can hold that experience as I walk and move around, those core values will naturally be there. So we're going to end here. And again, we wanted to open up things for, I don't know if anyone's still there, but for question and answer. Okay, so the conference line with the code has just been entered on the chat box in live stream. So you can look there and see if you want to dial into that number. We are here. I am here. And we're happy to hear from you. And we just need to acknowledge that let you know that we are live on live stream. So to be mindful of your privacy, that it will be live. And if that's something of concern for you, just type your question into the chat box, and we can go from there. So here I am, and there you are, and we have some distracting music we can put on. But again, if there's any questions or anything you want to share in the final 5 minutes that we have here, we're happy to entertain. And no, it's lovely music. And if you don't ask anything, we'll force Nora to ask a question just to fill up the time. Or I can share something else, but it's much more interesting if it's meaningful to you. I am now on speakerphone. Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to know. It's hard to know if you're even there. If there is nothing to share, again, feel free to type in the chat box. There is one thing I would like to share that's connected to the theme tonight, but I don't want to cut off anyone from sharing. So I'll take a couple of seconds before I speak. Everyone likes their privacy. Yeah. The one thing I will share that's very connected to the theme tonight. Oh, did someone want to say something? Okay, or maybe I'm talking to myself on the phone. It's okay. Just jump in it. Oh, okay.
Hi, I'm shy with questions, but happy to be part of this. Please share your thoughts.
Okay. Thank you, whoever you are, so I don't feel alone. Thank you for writing in the chat box. I just wanted to share something that I have found very, very thought-provoking, and I think quite important to acknowledge. So, this organization is, my goodness, 80 plus years old. And the original students from the very beginning, you can imagine, actually, many of them have passed away. There's really only literally a handful. And of course, one of them just passed away, Daddy Genki, who had been the head of the organization at 104. She just passed away a couple of weeks ago. And so now there's just literally 3 or 4 left. And the head of the organization now is Daddy Gulzar, who is also very up there in physical age. And certainly is very fragile physical health. And if you ever want to see a demonstration that the soul does exist, you can look at someone like Daddy Gulzar. Although for physical health, for physical body, you can feel that she is separate from the physical body in the sense that she is very powerful, and doing so much despite the state of the body. But she's now the head of the organization, and she has been pretty much in solitude and silence due to that health for the past 2 years. So she's not even really physically present or accessible to most of us. And she's always been very silent all her life. And when I say silent, I don't mean she doesn't speak. She does speak, but there's a beautiful silence or peace in her mind, in her inner world. So she's not one who has really, I don't think, any waste thoughts at this time. But even as a young child, when she came at the age of around 8, there really wasn't a lot of questions or waste thoughts or unnecessary thoughts going on in there. A beautiful and natural peace or quiet that was nurtured and sustained over the decades. And so it's very relevant to tonight's session. So soul consciousness obviously came very easily to this soul. I think actually they probably were soul conscious, just didn't know and had it articulated for themselves. But now this organization is being led, the leadership, the instrument to lead the organization is almost physically not present, is in a state of beautiful, beautiful sacred silence. And what kind of leadership? It's a very unique form of leadership. We're used to leaders that are present and making things happen and out there and mobilizing. And she's appears to be doing nothing. But that appears to be doing nothing. In my heart, I'm very, very happy. I loved Daddy Janki. I loved I've been through, this is the third leader that I have witnessed. There was Daddy Prakashmani, and then the H one has a speciality that's so wonderful. But especially at this time, when the world is undergoing so much rapid transformation that's leaving souls wondering what is going on and what should I be doing? It's beautiful to have this kind of leadership that is doing something, but the doing is in being. And that is an activity to stabilize in a state of being that is so spiritually powerful and peaceful. It's probably one of the most relevant activities of our time. And so it's wonderful leadership. She is demonstrating that leadership just in her presence and inviting all of us to discover for ourselves that very sacred, silent, spiritual state of being that is, I think, the response to the current times. So I just wanted to share that. I find it gives so much hope and direction and demonstration and optimism and determination. So we have been incorporating silence and more reflection into our days, not really so-called wasting our time or, the days just go on, but really we've been quite busy doing this state of being. And so I extend that invitation to you. And of course, we'll continue to offer online sessions that will support that opportunity to have a spiritual sense of self, that very peaceful, timeless, beautiful, sacred experience of the self, which I think is such an anchor at these times of what seems like uncertainty and transition. So I'm going to end there because we've run out of time. Thank you so much for joining tonight. I believe next week things will become a little bit more normal and we'll go back to Zoom. Is that correct? Okay. Okay, yes, we would appreciate your feedback because we're fine with it. This may not need an interactive platform. You might be very content. And I'm happy to give reflective questions that you can work on in the privacy of your home. If you're content with this format on live stream, we can continue with this. It doesn't need to be the interactive platform of Zoom. So maybe leave a comment in our chat box or email us at actually it's going to go into the chat box, our email address. We really appreciate your feedback. It's very helpful for us. If this format works, just let us know because it's fine for us as well. Whatever is most effective for you. So again, big thank you. And I hope we get to see you again next week or even before that because we have a very full weekend. I'm going to try to remember this, but I have a prompter who I will telepathically plug into. Saturday, we have Insperience Meditation on live stream, the same live stream from 1 o'clock to 1:45. And then at 2 o'clock on Zoom, and again, go to our website, it's all there. But on Zoom, we have Inner Fitness, and I think it's Diet of the Mind. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's the theme. Inner Fitness, an hour long, 2 to 3 o'clock. That's Saturday. On oh, oh, and if you're not receiving emails from us with this information, email us. Again, it's in the chat box. And give us permission. We'll check. If you had already done this, we can check. But if not, give us permission that you want to be added to our email list and get notifications of courses and information on how to join. Sunday, this is where things get challenging for JD. Is it just the one course on? No, two. World Meditation Hour, yeah? So 1:30 to 2:30, Planting Seeds of Change. And that is on Zoom. Live stream. I lied. Zoom. That's on Zoom. It's on our website because I'm sure I'm just confusing you. So on Zoom, 1:30 to 2:30, Planting Seeds of Change is the theme. And then in the evening, super important now, World Meditation Hour. If you want to know how to help yourself and contribute to the world at this time, World Meditation Hour is a beautiful opportunity. And that's on live stream, the same live stream channel, 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. on Sunday. If that made no sense. Hindi Raj Yoga begins this weekend. If you are a Hindi speaker, even if you're not, you just want to learn or something, that you need to register on Eventbrite. That's this weekend, over 2 weekends. So I would highly recommend, if that's of interest, go to our website. And is that in the chat window too, our website? It's coming into the chat window. So our website has a chart with all these events and the directions on how to join, much clearer than what I just communicated. So we will stay live for a couple of moments so you can get the information of the chat box for a moment or two, and then we will sign off. But again, big thank you from the heart for joining us. We're so happy that you used your time to be with us tonight, and we wish you a wonderful evening until we meet you online again. Om Shanti.